7 months after firing the employee, the millionaire finds her pregnant and changes everything. Jennifer Carter walked with difficulty through the streets of Los Angeles, her 7-month belly weighing heavily with every step she took. The late afternoon sun beat down hard on her yellow maid's uniform, and she felt sweat trickling down her forehead as she headed to another day of work at a house in the city's upscale neighborhood. That's when the black luxury sedan pulled up right beside her on the sidewalk. Jennifer immediately recognized the car, and her heart raced. Behind the wheel was Michael Bennett, the millionaire businessman who had been her employer for 5 years until that terrible day, 7 months ago, when everything changed inexplicably. "Jennifer." Michael's voice came out hoarse, full of surprise and something she couldn't quite identify. She stopped walking, but didn't turn her face to look at him. Her hands instinctively moved to cover her belly, as if wanting to protect her baby from the awkward situation. "Jennifer, please, listen to me." Michael got out of the car, leaving it running with the door open. He wore an expensive suit as always, but his face looked different, thinner, with dark circles she had never seen before. "I have nothing to say to you," she replied without looking back, continuing to walk, even though each step required considerable effort. "Wait, please, I didn't know you were expecting a baby." Michael followed her, walking alongside her on the sidewalk. Jennifer stopped abruptly and finally turned to face him. Her brown eyes, which had once been full of confidence and dedication, now showed only hurt and weariness. "And what would that change, Mr. Michael? You dismissed me without any explanation. 5 years working in your home, being loyal, dedicated, and suddenly I was treated like a stranger." "Jennifer, No, she raised her hand, interrupting him. "You didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. Just said my services were no longer needed, and that was it. No letter of recommendation, no explanation, nothing." Michael swallowed hard. The guilt he had carried for months intensified seeing her condition. Jennifer had always been a strong woman, with an upright posture and an easy smile. Now she was visibly thinner in the face, her brown hair was drier, and there was a deep sadness in her eyes that he had never seen before. "Let me at least give you a ride. You shouldn't be walking in this sun in your condition." He gestured toward the car. "I don't need your pity, Mr. Michael. I've managed on my own these 7 months. I'll keep managing. It's not pity, it's—" He stopped, searching for the right words. "It's the least I can do." Jennifer gave a bitter laugh that made Michael's heart tighten. "The least? The least would have been treating me with respect after 5 years of honest work. The least would have been giving me a chance to explain whatever was wrong." Some people began to stop on the sidewalk, curious about the argument. Jennifer noticed the stares and felt her cheeks burn with shame. "I'm not going to discuss this here on the street," she said, resuming her walk. Michael followed her, desperate not to lose her again. "Then give me 5 minutes, just 5 minutes to talk properly, please." "I don't have time for that. I need to get to work," Jennifer replied, looking at the simple wristwatch she wore. "Mrs. Dorothy doesn't like it when we're late." "Where are you working?" "As a maid, obviously. It's what I know how to do," she answered dryly. 3 different houses during the week, plus night cleaning on weekends when I can get it." Michael felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. Jennifer had always been much more than just a maid in his home. She managed everything with impressive efficiency, organized his personal schedule, received important visitors, and even helped with household financial matters. She had a natural talent for administration that he had always respected. "Jennifer, I didn't know that." "Know what?" "That a pregnant woman fired without cause would have trouble finding a decent job." She stopped again, now visibly upset. "Did you think I had a wealthy family to support me? That I had savings to live without working?" The reality hit Michael like an avalanche. In all the years Jennifer had worked for him, she never spoke about family, never received visitors, never asked for time off for family events. He had always assumed she was private by choice, not out of necessity. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "I didn't think—" Michael began, but the words died in his mouth. "Exactly. You didn't think. You never thought of me as a person who had bills to pay, dreams, needs." Jennifer adjusted her purse strap on her shoulder and kept walking. To you, I was just another object in your house. That's not true, Michael said, catching up to her again. You know I always respected you, always valued your work. Valued it so much that you let me go without even knowing why, isn't that right? Michael fell silent. The truth was, he had fired Jennifer because his wife, Patricia, had insisted. She said some jewelry had gone missing, and she suspected Jennifer. At the time, Michael was having marriage problems and chose to believe his wife's word to avoid more conflict. Jennifer, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe. She stopped once more, this time with tears in her eyes. Mr. Michael, you knew me for 5 years. Did I ever even once give you reason to doubt me? He knew the answer. Jennifer had always been absolutely honest. When she accidentally broke something, she reported it immediately. When she found money left around the house, she always returned it. When she took important phone calls for him, she never forgot to note every detail. Never, he admitted quietly. Then why did you condemn me without even knowing what was happening? Michael couldn't answer. The truth was too humiliating to admit there in the middle of the street to a pregnant woman he had deeply wronged. Jennifer wiped her tears with the back of her hand and sighed heavily. I have to go, Mr. Michael. Unlike you, I can't afford to be late for work. She started walking again, but this time more slowly. The weight of her belly and the stress of the conversation were clearly taking their toll. At least let me take you there, Michael insisted, walking beside her. It's not safe for you to walk so much in this heat. I walk every day, Jennifer replied curtly. I don't have my own car, remember? I never could afford one, even working for a wealthy family. The irony in her voice was like a blade cutting through Michael's conscience. He had always known Jennifer didn't have a car, but he had never considered the practical difficulties that represented for her. Then let me help now. Why? Why now, after 7 months, do you want to help? It was a fair question, and Michael had no answer that wouldn't make him seem even more guilty. The truth was that seeing her like that, pregnant and clearly struggling, had awakened a guilt in him that he had been trying to ignore for months. Because I should never have let this happen, he finally said. Jennifer stopped and looked directly into his eyes for the first time since they had met. I'm glad you finally admitted that, she said, but it's too late. I've learned not to depend on anyone. It doesn't have to be this way. Yes, it does. Jennifer adjusted her purse once more and looked at the street ahead. I trusted you completely. I dedicated my life to taking care of your home, your family, and when I needed loyalty in return, when I needed someone to believe in my honesty, you chose to stand against me. Her words were true and painful. Michael remembered how Jennifer always cared about the smallest details of his life. She remembered his medical appointments, organized his daily vitamins, knew when he was stressed and prepared his favorite tea without him asking. Jennifer, if I could turn back time. But you can't, she interrupted him. And I've learned a valuable lesson. I can't depend on anyone but myself. She placed her hand on her belly. And my child. The father of the child. Is he helping you? Jennifer's face closed off even more, and Michael realized he had touched on a sensitive subject. That's none of your business, she replied coldly. Sorry, I didn't mean to. You didn't mean anything. That's exactly the point. Jennifer started walking again, but now she was clearly more tired. Michael noticed she put her hand on her back from time to time, clearly in pain. His conscience couldn't bear seeing that. Jennifer, please don't be too proud to accept help when you need it. Pride? She stopped and turned to him with an expression of disbelief. You think this is pride? That's not what I meant. That's exactly it. You think I'm refusing your help out of pride, as if it was some kind of whim of mine. She lifted her chin, and Michael saw a flash of the strength she always had. It's not pride, Mr. Michael. It's self-preservation. What do you mean? You already let me down once when I needed trust the most. How can I be sure you won't let me down again? It was a question Michael had no answer for. How could he prove to her that he had changed, that he had learned if she didn't give him a chance? You're right, he said finally. I don't deserve your trust. But that doesn't mean you should suffer because of my mistakes. Jennifer studied him for a moment, as if trying to decipher his true intentions. "What do you want from me, Mr. Michael?" "Nothing," he answered honestly. I can't accept that you're going through difficulties because of me." "Because of you?" Jennifer gave another bitter laugh. "You think you're very important. I'm in this situation because of my own choices." "What choices?" Jennifer hesitated, clearly debating whether to reveal more about her personal situation. "I chose to trust the wrong person," she said finally, looking down. "Twice." Michael understood she was referring both to him and the child's father, and felt his heart tighten even more. "Jennifer!" "No," she raised her hand again. "I don't want your pity nor your late apologies. I just want you to leave me alone." "All right," Michael said to his own surprise. "But answer just one question for me." Jennifer waited. "Are you okay? Physically, I mean, is the pregnancy going well?" It was a simple question, but the way Jennifer's face twisted told him everything he needed to know. "That's not my business, I know," Michael interrupted her. "But I need to know if you're being seen by a doctor, if you're getting the necessary checkups." Jennifer remained silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer, almost vulnerable. "I do what I can with what I have." "What does that mean?" "It means I don't have health insurance, Mr. Michael. I rely on the public health system, which doesn't always have the best care conditions." Michael felt as if the world were crumbling around him. Jennifer was facing a pregnancy without proper medical care because he had destroyed her financial stability. "Let me pay for a private doctor." "No." "Jennifer, be reasonable. Think of your baby." "I think of my baby all the time," she replied firmly. "And that's exactly why I won't accept your help." "I don't understand." "What happens when you get tired of paying? When your conscience is clear and you decide you've done your good deed for the year?" She stared at him intensely. "I become dependent on something that could end at any moment, and my child too." Michael hadn't thought of that. For him, the money to cover Jennifer's medical costs would be insignificant, but for her, it would represent a dependency that could be cut off without warning, exactly like her job had been. "I wouldn't do that." "You already have." Her words hit Michael like a slap. She was absolutely right. He had already proven he was capable of cutting ties without consideration for the consequences to the other person. "You're right," he admitted, "but that doesn't change the fact that you need proper medical care." "I'll manage." "How?" Jennifer sighed and looked at the clock again. "I work 6 days a week. On Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I take care of Mrs. Dorothy's house. On Thursdays and Fridays, I work at the Wilson family's house. On Saturdays, I do night cleaning in offices. With that, I can pay the rent for a small apartment in a simple neighborhood and buy basic food. And medical care. I go to the health clinics when I can get time off. It's not ideal, but it's what I have." Michael did a quick mental calculation. If Jennifer worked 6 days a week at jobs that probably paid very little, she must be working herself to exhaustion just to survive. "That's not right. A pregnant woman shouldn't be working so much." "What's not right is a pregnant woman having to work so much to survive," Jennifer corrected. "But that's the reality for many people, Mr. Michael. Not everyone has the luxury of choosing how much to work. Let me help you, not as charity, but as compensation for what I did to you." "Compensation?" Jennifer repeated the word as if it was something bitter. "You think money will erase what happened?" "No," Michael said quickly. "But it can ensure that you and your baby get the care you deserve." Jennifer fell silent, clearly struggling with herself. Michael could see that she was exhausted, that every day was a battle for her. But he also saw her determination, her refusal to become dependent again. "If I accept," she said finally, "it would only be until the baby is born. After that, I don't want anything more from you." "All right," Michael agreed immediately, relieved that she was at least considering the possibility. "And I want it to be clear that this doesn't mean I forgive what happened. I understand. And I don't want you to think you owe me anything after this. Let's consider the accounts settled. Jennifer, these are my conditions. she said firmly. Do you accept or not? Michael knew she was trying to maintain some control over the situation, trying to protect her dignity as best she could. I accept, he said. Then it's settled. Jennifer sighed, seeming simultaneously relieved and worried about her decision. But I want everything documented. I don't want misunderstandings later. Of course. We'll make a formal agreement. And I keep working. I'm not going to stay home doing nothing. Jennifer, you should at least cut back on your workload. 6 days a week is too much for a pregnant woman. I know what I can and can't do, she replied defensively. Michael noticed he had touched another sensitive spot. Jennifer was clearly trying to maintain some sense of independence and control over her life. You're right, he said. I'm sorry for trying to dictate what you should do. The response seemed to surprise Jennifer. She looked at him curiously, as if trying to understand why he had given in so easily. Now I really need to go, she said, checking the time again. I'm running late. Let me at least give you a ride there. Jennifer hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, but it's just a ride. Just a ride, Michael agreed. They walked silently to the car. Michael opened the passenger door for her, and Jennifer got in with some difficulty due to the size of her belly. Where to? Michael asked as he got in on the driver's side. Jennifer gave the address, and Michael realized it was in a part of the city he rarely visited, a lower middle-class neighborhood, far from the upscale areas where he lived and worked. During the drive, they remained silent. Michael occasionally glanced in the rearview mirror to observe Jennifer, who kept her gaze fixed on the window. She looked exhausted, and he wondered how many hours a day she slept considering her workload. It's here, Jennifer said, when they arrived at a simple but well-kept house. Michael stopped the car and turned to her. Jennifer, about our conversation. We'll sort out the details later, she said, getting out of the car. Right now, I need to work. Can I pick you up later? No need, I always take the bus back. What time do you finish? At 8 in the evening. Michael checked the time. It was 3 in the afternoon. Jennifer would be working 5 hours straight, doing heavy cleaning, 7 months pregnant. Jennifer? Goodbye, Mr. Michael, she said, closing the car door and heading toward the house entrance. Michael watched until she went inside, then sat in the car for a few minutes, trying to process everything that had happened. Seeing Jennifer in those conditions had been a bigger shock than he had imagined. The strong, efficient woman he knew was clearly struggling just to survive. As he drove back to his office, Michael couldn't stop thinking about the conversation they had. The bitterness in Jennifer's voice, the pain in her eyes, the way she protected her belly, all of it made him feel like the worst kind of person. When he arrived at the office, Michael couldn't focus on anything. His staff noticed he was distracted, cancelling meetings and answering emails mechanically. His mind was completely occupied with thoughts about Jennifer. At 8 o'clock sharp, he was parked in front of the house where she worked. He wasn't sure if she would accept a ride back, but he couldn't bear the thought of letting her face public transportation alone at that hour. When Jennifer came out of the house, Michael could see she was even more tired. She walked more slowly and her hands were constantly on her back, clearly in pain. He got out of the car and approached her. I came to pick you up. I said you didn't need to. I know what you said, but I also know you're exhausted and pregnant, and it's nighttime. Mr. Michael, it's just a ride, Jennifer, nothing more. She looked at him for a moment, then sighed and nodded. Clearly, she was too tired to argue. On the way to her place, Jennifer gave minimal directions about where she lived. Michael realized it was in an even simpler neighborhood than where she worked. When they arrived in front of a small apartment building, Jennifer turned to him. Thanks for the ride. Jennifer, can we talk about the details of our agreement tomorrow? I don't know. Tomorrow I work at the Wilson family's house. And after that? I have a doctor's appointment. Michael was pleased to hear that she was at least getting medical checkups, even if they were inadequate. How about if I come by here after your appointment? All right, she agreed, but only to settle this matter, nothing more. Understood. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. Jennifer got out of the car and headed toward the building entrance. Michael waited until she disappeared through the door before driving away. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He lay awake thinking about everything that had happened, about all the implications of Jennifer's situation. For the first time in months, he was being forced to confront the real consequences of his actions. The next morning, he woke up with renewed determination. He called his personal lawyer and scheduled a meeting to discuss how to structure a compensation agreement for Jennifer. He wanted everything to be done in the most respectful and transparent way possible. During the day, Michael found himself constantly thinking about Jennifer. How was she spending her day? Was she eating properly? Was she staying hydrated enough? The questions kept coming to his mind. At 5 in the afternoon, he was again parked in front of the building where Jennifer lived. She appeared promptly at 6, walking more slowly than the day before. "How was the appointment?" Michael asked when she got in the car. "Normal," Jennifer replied briefly. "Did the doctor say anything specific?" "That I need to rest more and eat better," she said with irony, but didn't explain how to do that while working 6 days a week. Michael felt the weight of guilt once more. If he hadn't fired Jennifer, she would have had a peaceful pregnancy with all the necessary care. "Jennifer, I spoke with my lawyer today. We can structure an agreement that guarantees your medical care and a monthly compensation until the baby is born." "How long until the baby is born?" 2 months. "And are you sure you can work until then?" Jennifer hesitated before answering. "I have to manage." "But what if you can't?" "I can't think about that," she said firmly. "I have to manage." Michael realized Jennifer was operating at her limit, pushing herself beyond what was healthy because she simply had no other choice. "What if I guarantee compensation that covers all your monthly expenses? You could reduce your workload." "Mr. Michael, we've already talked about this. I don't want to become dependent." "It wouldn't be dependency, it would be a fixed-term contract." Michael interrupted her. 2 months, with everything documented, no room for misunderstandings. Jennifer fell silent, considering the proposal. "How much?" Michael mentioned an amount that would comfortably cover all her expenses for 2 months, including private medical care. "That's too much," Jennifer said. "It's fair. For you, maybe. For me, it's more money than I'd see in a year of work." "Then accept it." Jennifer sighed deeply. "I need to think about it." "That's fine, but don't take too long. Every day you work under these conditions is another day of risk for you and the baby." "I know that," Jennifer replied with irritation. "Do you think I don't know that?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound condescending." "But you did." Michael realized he was still making the same old mistake, assuming he knew what was best for others without considering them as people capable of making their own decisions. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'll think about your proposal," Jennifer said when they arrived in front of her building. "But I need time to decide." "How much time?" "A few days." "All right." Jennifer got out of the car and turned to look at him through the open window. "Mr. Michael?" "Yes?" "Why are you doing this?" It was the question he had been trying to avoid. The truth was complicated and involved admitting mistakes he was still struggling to fully accept. "Because it's the right thing to do," he replied. "It's not just that." Jennifer was right. It wasn't just that. There was guilt, yes, but there was also something deeper he was still trying to understand. "You're right," Michael admitted. "It's not just that, but I'm still trying to understand what else it is." Jennifer studied him for a moment, then nodded. "At least you're being honest." "I'm trying to be." "I'll think about your proposal," she repeated. "Good night, Mr. Michael." "Good night, Jennifer." Michael watched until she entered the building, then drove home, lost in thought. Jennifer's question had touched on something he wasn't ready to examine fully. At home, his wife Patricia was watching television in the living room. "Where have you been?" she asked without taking her eyes off the screen. "Taking care of some business." "What business?" Michael hesitated. He and Patricia barely talked about anything substantial anymore. Their marriage had become a convenient cohabitation, without real intimacy. "Work matters," he lied. "Oh," Patricia replied, clearly uninterested. Michael went up to his room, but again couldn't sleep. He lay awake thinking about Jennifer's question, trying to understand his own motivations. The next day he couldn't concentrate at work again. His partners noticed his distraction and asked if everything was all right, but Michael didn't know how to explain his situation. During lunch, he decided to drive to the neighborhood where Jennifer worked, just to make sure she was okay. He didn't intend to approach her or interfere with her work. He just wanted to see her from a distance to ease his conscience. When he arrived at the street of the house where she worked, he saw an ambulance parked out front. His heart raced, and he quickly parked and ran toward the house. "What happened?" he asked a neighbor who was watching the commotion. "The young woman who works here fell ill," the woman replied. "I think it's the one who's pregnant." Michael felt the world spin around him. He ran toward the ambulance and saw Jennifer being placed on a stretcher. "Jennifer!" he shouted, approaching. She opened her eyes and saw him, looking confused. "Mr. Michael, what are you doing here?" Michael didn't know how to explain. "What happened?" "She fainted while working," one of the paramedics explained. "Likely dehydration and exhaustion. We're taking her to the hospital for tests. I'm coming with you." "Are you a relative?" the paramedic asked. Michael looked at Jennifer, who was obviously too weak to protest. "I'm a family friend." "Then you can come." During the ride to the hospital, Michael held Jennifer's hand, which was connected to an IV. She was conscious but clearly shaken. "It's okay," he said, trying to reassure her. "You and the baby will be fine." "How did you know where I was?" she asked weakly. "I was passing through the area." Jennifer looked at him with suspicion but was too weak to question further. At the hospital, Michael waited in the waiting room while Jennifer was examined. He felt completely helpless, pacing back and forth, imagining the worst. After what seemed like hours, a doctor approached him. "She's fine," the doctor said, "but she's clearly exhausted and dehydrated. The baby is fine too, but she needs complete rest for the next few days." "Complete rest?" "Yes. No work, no stress. Just rest, proper nutrition and hydration." "Doctor, can she be discharged today?" "Yes, but someone needs to be responsible for her. She can't be alone." Michael didn't hesitate. "I'll take responsibility." When Jennifer was discharged a few hours later, she was still weak but conscious enough to question the decisions Michael had made. "You can't be responsible for me," she said, as he helped her into the car. "The doctor said you can't be alone. I'm alone every day. And that's exactly what caused your fainting." Jennifer didn't have the energy to argue. During the drive to her apartment, she remained silent, clearly worried about the implications of what had happened. "I'm going to lose my job," she finally said. "No, you won't." "How can you be sure?" "Because I'll speak with Mrs. Dorothy. I'll explain that you had a medical emergency." "What if she doesn't accept it?" "Then I'll compensate for any financial loss." Jennifer sighed. "I said I would think about your proposal." "And I said time was running out," Michael replied gently. "What happened today proves you can't keep up this pace." "I know," Jennifer admitted, and for the first time since they had reunited, her voice was broken. "I know I can't go on like this, but I don't know what to do." "Accept my help." "But what if what? What if you change your mind again?" Michael stopped the car in front of her building and turned to face her completely. "Jennifer, I can't promise I'm a perfect person. I've already proven I'm not. But I can promise I won't abandon you again." "How can I trust that?" "Because I've learned my lesson. Because seeing you in that ambulance today was one of the most terrifying things I've ever experienced." "Why?" Jennifer asked, echoing her question from the day before. "Why do you care so much?" Michael was silent for a long moment, struggling to find the right words. "Because I realized you weren't just my employee," he finally said. "You were, someone I deeply respect, and I destroyed your life over a stupid mistake." "What mistake?" Michael knew the time had come to tell the whole truth. "Patricia said some jewelry had gone missing. She said she suspected you. I should have investigated, should have talked to you first. But I was having marriage problems and chose the easiest way out." "Jewelry," Jennifer repeated, seeming genuinely shocked. "What jewelry?" "Her emeralds." The necklace and earrings. But I never... Jennifer stopped mid-sentence as if remembering something. What? Mrs. Patricia lent that jewelry to her sister. It was about 2 days before you fired me. I saw when she gave it to Mrs. Amanda. Michael felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Patricia had lied to him. She had falsely accused Jennifer, knowing exactly where the jewelry was. Are you sure? Absolutely. In fact, Mrs. Patricia asked me to wrap the jewelry in tissue paper to protect it during transport. The revelation hit Michael like a punch to the gut. Not only had he made a mistake by firing Jennifer without investigating, but his wife had deliberately destroyed an innocent person's life. Why would Patricia do that? Michael asked, more to himself than to Jennifer. She never liked me, Jennifer replied simply. She always thought I had too much influence in the house. Influence? You used to ask for my opinion on various things. Decor menus for important dinners, event organization. Mrs. Patricia thought that was her role. Michael remembered several occasions when Patricia had made sharp comments about how much he relied on Jennifer for household matters. At the time, he thought it was just silly jealousy. Jennifer, I don't know how to apologize for this. You can't, she said calmly. Some things have no excuses. But I can try to make it up to you. How? First, by making sure you and your baby have all the necessary care. Second, by ensuring you have financial security until you can get back on your feet. And third? Third, by proving I'm not the same person who made that terrible mistake. Jennifer watched him for a long moment. All right, she said finally. I accept your help, but with 2 conditions. What are they? First, everything documented in a contract. No misunderstandings. I agree. Second, when all this is over, when my baby is born and I'm back at work, I want no further contact between us. The second condition hit Michael unexpectedly. The idea of no longer having Jennifer in his life, even in a limited way, was more painful than he had anticipated. If that's what you want, that's what I need, then it's agreed. Michael helped Jennifer up to her apartment. It was the first time he had seen where she lived, and he was surprised by how small yet organized everything was. It was just 1 room, a small kitchen and a bathroom, but it was impeccably clean and tidy. Is this where you live alone? He asked. It's what I can afford. Where will the baby sleep? Jennifer pointed to a corner of the room where there was a small wooden crib. I managed to buy it used. I still need the mattress and a few other items, but I'll manage. Michael made a mental note to provide everything necessary for the baby. You need to rest now, he said. The doctor was very clear about that. I know. I'll arrange for a nurse to stay with you during the day. That's not necessary. Jennifer, you fainted today. Yes, it is. I don't want strangers in my home. Then I'll stay. You can't stay here. Why not? Because it wouldn't look right. Michael realized Jennifer was worried about appearances, about what the neighbors might think. Then let's find another solution. They were silent for a moment, each thinking about the available options. What if you stayed at my house for a few days, Michael suggested, until you fully recover? At your house, with your wife. Patricia is traveling. She'll be away for 2 weeks. Jennifer hesitated. I don't know. You'd have a comfortable room, proper meals, and I could make sure you actually rest. And after? After, you come back here, but with a lighter routine. No more work until the baby is born. Jennifer thought for a few minutes. Just until I recover? Just until you recover. And you won't try to convince me to stay longer? I won't. All right, she agreed finally. But only for a few days. A few days, Michael agreed, though deep down he hoped she would change her mind when she saw how different things could be. Jennifer packed a small bag with some clothes and personal items. Michael noticed she didn't have many possessions, some simple but well-kept clothes, a few books, few personal items. During the drive to Michael's house, Jennifer remained silent, clearly nervous about the situation. It was strange for her to return to that house, not as an employee, but as... She didn't quite know how to classify her current situation. Michael's house was exactly as she remembered, large, luxurious, but somehow cold. She had spent 5 years taking care of that space, knew every room intimately. "You can stay in the first-floor guest room," Michael said, carrying her bag. "It's the most comfortable one." "Thank you." The room was larger than Jennifer's entire apartment, with a king-size bed, a private bathroom, and a view of the garden. It was too luxurious for her, but she didn't comment. "Are you hungry?" Michael asked. "A little. I'll make something." "You cook?" "I learned some basics after you left," Michael admitted. Jennifer noticed the house was different. It wasn't dirty, but it lacked the meticulous organization she maintained when working there. It was clear Michael was trying to handle everything alone, but didn't have the personal touch she always brought to the environment. In the kitchen, Michael prepared a simple omelette and a salad. It wasn't elaborate, but it was nutritious and made with care. "How did you learn to cook?" Jennifer asked while they ate. "The internet mostly, and some mistakes." "Lots of mistakes." Michael smiled slightly. "I discovered I have a talent for burning water." It was the first time Jennifer had seen him smile since they reunited, and she noticed something different about him. He seemed more human, less distant than before. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You seem different." "Different how?" "Less formal, more approachable." Michael considered the question. "I think being alone forced me to be more real. When you lived here, I could maintain a persona of a distant employer because you handled all the human aspects of the house. Without you, I had to learn to be a complete person." "And how was that?" "Hard," Michael admitted. "I realized how much I relied on you for things I never even imagined." "Like what?" "Remembering to eat regular meals, keeping in touch with important people, even knowing when it was time to change the towels." He gave a self-conscious laugh. "You made my life functional in a way I never noticed. It was my job. It was much more than a job, and I should have recognized that." Jennifer fell silent, processing his words. "Why is your wife traveling?" she asked. We're going through a rough patch in our marriage. She went to visit family to take a break and think about the future." "Because of what she did to me?" "Partly. When I found out the truth about the jewelry, we had a terrible argument. But the problems have been there for a long time." "How long?" "Years, actually. We've both changed, but in different directions. We have nothing in common anymore except the convenience of being married." Jennifer absorbed the information without comment. It wasn't her place to give marital advice to Michael, and she had her own problems to worry about. After dinner, Michael showed Jennifer how to operate the television and air conditioning remotes, left important phone numbers on the bedside table, and made sure she had everything she needed. "If you need anything during the night, my room is at the end of the hall," he said. "Thank you." "Jennifer?" "Yes?" "Good night. And thank you for agreeing to stay here." "Good night, Mr. Michael." Alone in the room, Jennifer took a long, hot shower, a luxury she couldn't afford in her small apartment. The hot water helped relax her tense muscles, and she realized how accustomed she'd become to living with constant discomfort. The bed was incredibly comfortable compared to the thin mattress she had at home. She lay down and for the first time in months felt she could truly rest. But sleep didn't come easily. Her mind was full of thoughts about the turn her life had taken. Just hours earlier, she was collapsing from exhaustion at work. Now she was lying in a luxurious bed, being cared for by the man who had caused much of her troubles. It was ironic, she thought, but it was also the first time in months she felt truly safe. Michael also couldn't sleep easily. He stayed awake thinking about everything he had discovered about Jennifer's situation, about his own motivations, about their uncertain future. The next morning, Michael woke up early and prepared a more elaborate breakfast. Fresh fruit, whole wheat bread, scrambled eggs and orange juice. When Jennifer came down, she looked noticeably more rested. "Did you sleep well?" he asked. "Better than in months," she admitted. "The bed is very comfortable." "Great. How are you feeling?" "Better. Still a bit weak, but better. The doctor recommended complete rest for at least 3 days, then we can reassess." 3 days, Jennifer repeated, as if trying to get used to the idea of not working for so long. When was the last time you took 3 days off? Michael asked. Jennifer thought for a moment. I don't remember, she admitted. Then it's about time. After breakfast, Michael got ready to go to the office, but hesitated before leaving. Are you sure you'll be okay alone here? I'll be fine, I'm not an invalid. I know. But promise you'll call me if you need anything. I promise. And promise you'll actually rest. No trying to clean the house or organize things. Jennifer smiled slightly. It'll be hard to resist the temptation, but I promise. I'll be back for lunch. You don't have to. I want to, Michael interrupted. I want to make sure you're eating properly. At the office, Michael had trouble concentrating again, but this time it was different. Not anxiety or guilt, but genuine concern for Jennifer's well-being. During his lunch break, he stopped by a baby store and bought some essential items. A crib mattress for Jennifer, some baby hygiene products, some basic baby clothes. He didn't want to overdo it and make her feel uncomfortable, but he wanted to ensure she had at least the basics. When he got home, he found Jennifer in the living room reading a book. What are you reading? He asked. A novel I picked from your library. I hope you don't mind. Of course not. You can read anything you want. Michael prepared a light lunch, and they ate while talking about the book Jennifer was reading. It was a casual conversation, without the tension that had characterized their previous encounters. Jennifer, can I ask a personal question? Michael said when they finished eating. Depends on the question. About the baby's father. Do you mind talking about it? Jennifer's face closed off slightly, but she didn't seem angry. What do you want to know? Does he know about the situation you're facing? He knows I'm pregnant. He doesn't know about my financial difficulties. And he didn't offer help? Jennifer gave a bitter laugh that Michael was beginning to recognize. He offered me money to take care of the problem, if you know what I mean. Michael understood immediately and felt a wave of anger toward a man he had never met. And when you said you were going to have the baby? He said he had a family to protect and couldn't take on extra responsibilities. Jennifer, I'm sorry. You don't need to be sorry. It was a valuable lesson about trusting the right people. How did you meet him? He was a client at one of the houses where I worked before working for you. He seemed kind, caring, said he was in the process of separating. But he wasn't. No, I found out later. When I told him about the pregnancy, he made it very clear that separation had never been in his plans. Michael once again felt the weight of responsibility. If he hadn't fired Jennifer, she would never have gotten involved with that man, never would have gone through this additional disappointment. Jennifer, I know I have no right to give advice, but shouldn't you demand child support from him? With what lawyer? With what money? Jennifer answered practically. Men like him know very well how to avoid legal responsibilities. I can help with that. No, Jennifer said firmly. That's a battle I don't want to fight. I don't want my child growing up knowing he was rejected by his biological father from the womb. But, no, Mr. Michael, some battles aren't worth it. I'd rather raise my child alone than force a relationship with someone who doesn't want us. Michael respected her decision, even though he disagreed with the unfairness of the situation. And you? Jennifer asked, changing the subject. How are you dealing with the problems in your marriage? Honestly, for the first time in years, I'm being forced to think about what I really want from life. And what do you want? I still don't know, Michael admitted. For a long time I lived on autopilot. Work, home, social commitments, repeating everything without questioning if that was what made me happy. And now? Now I realize it wasn't. I haven't been happy for years, Jennifer. Neither me nor Patricia. Why did you stay married then? Convenience, maybe. Fear of change. Or maybe because we never stopped to question if there was something better. Jennifer absorbed his words. Changes are scary, she said. But sometimes they're necessary. How do you do it? To face so many changes and uncertainties? I don't have a choice, Jennifer answered simply. When you have no option but to move forward, you move forward. But aren't you afraid? "I'm very afraid," she admitted. "Afraid I won't be able to support my child. Afraid of being a terrible mother. Afraid of always being alone. But fear can't paralyze me." Michael admired Jennifer's strength. Even facing much greater difficulties than his, she maintained a determination he had lost somewhere over the years. "You're going to be an excellent mother," he said. "How can you be sure?" "Because you already take care of everyone around you. For 5 years you took care of my house as if it were your family. I can only imagine what it will be like when it's actually your child." Jennifer stayed silent for a moment, clearly touched by the compliment. "Thank you," she said finally. During the afternoon, Michael returned to work, but his mind was divided. He found himself constantly thinking about Jennifer, wanting to know how she was spending her time, if she was really resting. When he got home at the end of the day, he found Jennifer in the kitchen, preparing something simple for dinner. "I thought you promised to rest," he said. "I am resting. I just wanted to prepare something. It helps me relax." "What are you making?" "Vegetable soup. Nothing too elaborate." The aroma was delicious, and Michael realized he had missed the home-cooked dinners Jennifer used to make when she worked for him. "Can I help? You can cut the bread." They worked in comfortable silence in the kitchen, and Michael noticed how natural their dynamic was. There was no tension, just efficient and familiar collaboration. "Jennifer, can I ask another personal question?" "Go ahead." "Do you have family? Parents? Siblings?" "No. My parents passed away when I was a teenager. I never had siblings." "How did you survive alone being so young?" "Foster homes until I turned 18. After that, domestic work. Always domestic work." Michael felt another pang of guilt, realizing how much he had taken Jennifer for granted. She had no support network, no family to turn to in tough times. He had probably been the most stable person in her life, and he had abandoned her when she needed him most. "Did you never think about studying, taking a course, going to college?" "I think about it every day," Jennifer answered. "I always wanted to study nursing, but I never had the financial means to stop working and dedicate myself to studies. And now, with the baby coming? Now it's become even more impossible. At least for the next few years. Not necessarily." "What do you mean?" "There are night courses, scholarship programs, options for mothers. Maybe it's not impossible." "Mr. Michael, I appreciate the optimism, but I'll be a single mother with no resources. I won't have the luxury of dreaming about college." "What if you had resources?" "But I don't." "What if you did?" "Hypothetically." Jennifer stopped stirring the soup and looked at him curiously. "Why are you asking?" "Just curious. If all financial limitations were removed, what would you do?" Jennifer thought for a moment. "I'd study nursing, get a job at a hospital, give my child the stability I never had. And personally, not just professionally." "Personally?" Jennifer hesitated. "I guess I'd try to trust people again, try to believe that not everyone will let me down." The answer hit Michael deeply. He had destroyed not only Jennifer's financial security, but also her ability to trust people. "Jennifer, I'm going to make your dreams happen." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can, and I will." "How?" "I don't know exactly yet, but I'll find a way." Jennifer studied him with an expression he couldn't decipher. "Why would you do this?" It was the question she kept asking, and that he kept trying to answer completely. "Because you deserve it," he said. "And because maybe, by helping you rebuild your life, I can learn to rebuild mine." "Are you using my situation to solve your own problems?" The question was direct and a bit harsh, but fair. "Maybe," Michael admitted. "But does that make the help less valid?" Jennifer thought for a moment. "I don't know, it depends on your true intentions." "My intentions are to make sure you and your baby have the life you deserve. If that also helps me become a better person, that's a positive side effect. And your wife, how will she react to this generosity?" "Patricia has no say in how I use my money to repair the damage she caused." "But she'll have an opinion anyway." "Probably, but it's no longer her problem." Jennifer noticed something in Michael's tone that suggested he had made a more definitive decision about his marriage. Are you going to divorce her? I think so, Michael replied. Finding out what she did to you was the last straw, but the problems had been there for a long time. Don't make that decision because of me. It's not because of you, it's for me. I found out I can't live with someone I don't trust, someone capable of destroying an innocent person's life out of jealousy. They ate dinner in thoughtful silence, each processing the revelations from the conversation. Michael was being more honest with himself about his marriage than he had been in years, and Jennifer was trying to understand whether she could trust this new version of Michael. After dinner, they sat in the living room, Jennifer continuing to read her book and Michael working on some office documents. "Mr. Michael?" Jennifer said after a while. "Yes? Thank you for letting me stay here. I know it wasn't an easy decision." "It was the easiest decision I've made in months," Michael answered honestly, "even with all the problems it might cause. Especially because of that. Sometimes the right decisions are the most complicated ones." Jennifer smiled, the first genuine smile Michael had seen from her since they reunited. "Good night, Mr. Michael." "Good night, Jennifer. And thank you." "For what?" "For giving me a second chance to do the right thing." That night, both slept better than they had in months. For Jennifer, it was the relief of finally having temporary security. For Michael, it was the peace of finally making decisions based on his real values, not convenience or fear. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The next morning, Michael woke up with a plan. He called his lawyer and scheduled a meeting to set up an educational fund for Jennifer, as well as a trust fund for the baby. He also called a friend who was a director at a reputable hospital to inquire about scholarship programs for nursing studies. When he told Jennifer about his research during breakfast, she was visibly moved. "You really did all that?" "I did. And there's good news. St. Michael's Hospital has an evening nursing program specifically for working mothers. They even offer on-site daycare during classes. But it must be very expensive. There are scholarships available, and even if we didn't get a full scholarship, I could cover the rest." "Mr. Michael, this is too much. It's the least I can do." Jennifer fell silent for a long moment, clearly wrestling with conflicting emotions. "If I accept all of this," she said finally, "how can I be sure it won't just become another form of dependency?" "Because we'll structure everything so you're independent. The educational fund would be yours, no strings attached. The trust fund for the baby would be managed by a third party, not me. You wouldn't be dependent on my goodwill." "And what do you get out of this?" "The chance to sleep peacefully, knowing I've repaired, at least partially, the harm I caused." "Just that?" Michael hesitated. The truth was more complicated, but he wasn't ready to admit, even to himself, that his feelings for Jennifer were turning into something deeper than guilt or responsibility. "Just that," he lied. Jennifer studied him for a moment, as if she could read his true motivation in his eyes, but she didn't press the issue. "I need time to think." "Of course, no pressure. And I want to see all the documents before I accept anything." "Obviously. And I want to understand exactly what my obligations would be." "You wouldn't have any obligations to me, Jennifer. That's the whole point. Everyone has obligations when they accept help. Maybe, but your obligations would be to yourself and your child, not to me." Jennifer nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll consider it." Over the following days, Jennifer gradually recovered from her exhaustion. Michael kept to a routine of working part-time at the office and spending the rest of the time at home, making sure she was okay. They developed a strange but comfortable dynamic. Jennifer insisted on helping with light household chores, and Michael found he enjoyed having company during meals. Their conversations became more natural, less burdened by tension and guilt. On the third day, while they were having dinner, Jennifer asked a question Michael had been dreading. "When does your wife get back from her trip?" "At the end of the week." "And then?" "Then we have a final conversation about the future of our marriage. What if she doesn't want a divorce?" "She won't have a choice. I've already made my decision. even if it complicates your finances? Money isn't a problem, and even if it were, some things are more important. Like what? Like integrity, like peace of mind, like being able to look at myself in the mirror without feeling ashamed. Jennifer realized Michael had changed profoundly in the last few months. The distant, self-centered man she had known had been replaced by someone more thoughtful, more human. And after the divorce? What will you do? I don't know yet. Maybe sell this house, get something smaller, reevaluate my business, perhaps get involved in more meaningful projects. Like what? I don't know. Maybe something related to helping people in situations similar to yours. Working women who need opportunities. Would you do that? Why not? I have resources, I have contacts, I can use them for something positive. Jennifer was impressed by Michael's transformation. The man she had met would never have considered using his position to help others. What caused this change in you? You, Michael answered without hesitation. Seeing what my actions caused in your life forced me to question who I really am and who I want to be. I only did what I had to do to survive. And by doing that, you taught me about real strength, about dignity, about what really matters in life. Jennifer fell silent, clearly touched by his words. Mr. Michael? Yes? I accept your help. Michael felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Are you sure? I am. But with one additional condition. What? I want to be involved in the project you mentioned, to help other women. Jennifer, you don't need to. It's not about needing. It's about wanting. If you're truly committed to doing something positive, I want to be part of it. Michael smiled, the first genuine smile he had given in years. It would be an honor to work with you. But only after I finish my nursing course. Of course. And only if the project is truly serious, not just a way to ease your conscience. It will be serious, I promise. They spent the rest of the evening talking about possibilities, about plans, about the future. For the first time since they had met, they were speaking as partners, not as boss and employee. The next day, Michael called his lawyer and his friend at the hospital to speed up the procedures. He also started researching organizations that helped working women, wanting to better understand how to structure an effective project. Jennifer, in turn, began researching the nursing course, the requirements, how she could organize her life to be a student and a mother at the same time. It was the beginning of a new phase for both, a phase based on cooperation, not on dependency or guilt. On Thursday, Michael received a phone call from Patricia, informing him she would return the next day. It was time to face the reality of his marital situation. Everything will be fine, Jennifer said when he told her about the phone call. You're making the right decision. How can you be sure? Because you're no longer the same person you were when you made the wrong decision about me. You've learned, you've changed. Now you can trust yourself. Jennifer's words gave Michael the courage he needed to face what lay ahead. On Friday morning, before Patricia arrived, Michael helped Jennifer pack her things. She would return to her apartment, but now with the security of having proper medical and financial support. Thank you for everything, she said as they were about to leave. Thank you for letting me help. And Michael, she said, using his first name for the first time in years. Yes? Good luck with your wife. Be honest with her, but be firm too. I will. And keep me informed about the project. When you're ready to start, I want to be involved. I'll be in touch. They looked at each other for a moment, both knowing they were closing a difficult chapter in their lives and beginning a new one. Goodbye, Jennifer. Goodbye, Michael. Michael dropped Jennifer off at her apartment and returned home to face Patricia. He was nervous but determined. He had discovered who he really wanted to be, and he could no longer live pretending to be someone else. When Patricia arrived, Michael was waiting in the living room. She looked tanned and relaxed, visibly in a good mood. "Hello, darling," she said, giving him a kiss on the cheek. "How was your week?" "Revealing," Michael answered. "What do you mean?" "Patricia, we need to talk." Michael's tone made Patricia stop and look at him carefully. "About what?" "About our marriage. And about Jennifer." The name Jennifer made Patricia's face twist into an expression of irritation. What about her? I discovered the truth about the jewelry. Patricia turned pale. What truth? That you lent them to your sister, that you knew exactly where they were when you accused Jennifer of theft. Michael, You destroyed an innocent person's life out of jealousy. It wasn't... That's exactly what it was, Michael interrupted her. And I was foolish enough to believe you without question. Patricia tried to defend herself, but her justification sounded hollow and selfish. She admitted she was jealous of Jennifer's influence in the house, that she felt replaced, but showed no real remorse for the harm she had caused. The conversation lasted for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. Michael wanted a divorce, and he made that clear, firmly but respectfully. You can keep the house, he said. I'll arrange a generous alimony, but our marriage is over. Patricia tried to argue, beg, even threaten, but Michael stood firm. He had made his decision based on values he had finally rediscovered. The following weeks were complicated, filled with legal paperwork and discussions about asset division. But Michael felt at peace with himself for the first time in years. During this period, he maintained regular contact with Jennifer, making sure she was getting proper medical follow-up and preparing for the baby's birth. Jennifer had enrolled in the nursing program and would be accepted into the class after the baby's birth. The program would allow her to study while caring for the child, exactly as Michael had promised. 1 month later, Jennifer went into labor. Michael received the call from the hospital at 3 in the morning. She had listed him as her emergency contact since she had no family. He rushed to the hospital and found Jennifer already in active labor. She was scared but determined, facing the most important moment of her life with the courage Michael had learned to admire in her. "How are you feeling?" he asked, holding her hand. "Like I'm about to meet the most important person in my life," Jennifer replied, smiling through the pain. 6 hours later, a small but healthy baby girl was born. Jennifer cried with emotion when the nurse placed the baby in her arms, and Michael felt his own eyes filling with tears. "She's perfect," he said. "She is," Jennifer agreed. "Emily." "Her name is Emily." "Emily," Michael repeated. "It means wisdom." "Exactly. Because she's already taught me more about unconditional love than I thought possible." In the following days, Michael helped Jennifer settle in at home with the baby. He had hired a nurse for the first few days and made sure she had everything she needed. When Emily turned 1 month old, Jennifer was ready to start thinking about the future again. "The project," she said to Michael during one of his visits. "It's time we started planning seriously. Are you sure you're ready?" "I am. Emily is doing well. I'm recovering nicely, and the nursing program doesn't start for 3 months. It's the perfect time to start structuring something." Michael had spent weeks researching and consulting experts. He had developed a proposal for a foundation that would offer educational and professional support for working women in vulnerable situations. "Here's what I envisioned," he said, showing Jennifer a detailed document. "A foundation that offers scholarships, childcare support, career guidance, and even microloans for women who want to start their own businesses." Jennifer read the document carefully, impressed with the level of detail, and thought Michael had put into the project. "It's very comprehensive," she said, "and very necessary. And would you be willing to be program director, obviously after you finish your nursing course?" "I'd love to," Jennifer said without hesitation, "but only if it's truly sustainable, not just a temporary charity project." "It will be sustainable. I've already set aside a significant fund to ensure it runs for the next 10 years at least." 10 years? To start. The idea is for it to become self-sustaining over time, through partnerships and other donors. Jennifer was clearly moved by the possibility of turning her difficult experience into something that could help other women. "When do we start?" "When you're ready." "I'm ready now." In the following months, they worked together to establish the New Hope Foundation. Jennifer cared for Emily during the day and worked on the project at night. Michael used his business connections to secure partnerships and community support. When Emily turned 3 months old, the foundation was officially established and had already received its first applicants for assistance. Jennifer began her nursing course, taking Emily to the hospital daycare during evening classes. It was a demanding schedule, but she was determined to make it work. Michael, meanwhile, had moved to a smaller, cozier apartment. His divorce had been finalized, and he was discovering who he was when he wasn't trying to maintain an image that didn't reflect his true values. One night, 6 months after Emily's birth, Michael was visiting Jennifer to discuss the foundation's progress when Emily started crying. "Let me get her," Michael offered. Jennifer hesitated for a moment, then handed the baby to him. Emily calmed down immediately in Michael's arms, and he gently rocked her. "She likes you," Jennifer observed. "I like her too," Michael replied, smiling at the baby. "Actually, I like both of you very much." There was something in Michael's tone that made Jennifer look at him more closely. "Michael?" "Yes?" "What are we doing?" "How do you mean?" "This," she gestured between them. "This partnership, this friendship. What exactly is it?" It was a question Michael had been avoiding asking himself, but one he could no longer ignore. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just know I feel more like myself when I'm with you than I have in years." "That doesn't answer my question." "Because I don't have a simple answer." Jennifer took Emily back and put her in the crib. "Michael, I need to know your intentions." "Why?" "Because I can't let Emily get attached to you if you're going to disappear from our lives when you get tired of feeling guilty." Jennifer's concern was valid and painful. Michael realized that his actions, regardless of his intentions, were creating expectations and connections that would have real consequences. "I'm not going to disappear," he said. "How can I be sure?" "Because—" Michael paused, struggling to find the right words. "Because you two have become the most important part of my life." Jennifer fell silent, processing his words. "Is that guilt?" "No. That's love." The word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning and implications. "Michael, I know it's complicated. I know our history makes everything more difficult, but I can't pretend I don't feel what I feel." "And what do you feel?" "That I want to be in your lives, not as an obligation or a penance, but as a family." Jennifer slowly sat down, clearly surprised by Michael's honesty. "A family?" "I know it might sound presumptuous. I know Emily isn't my biological daughter, but I love her as if she were. And I love you like I've never loved anyone before." Tears began to stream down Jennifer's face. "Michael, this is too much, too fast, too complicated?" "Scary," she finished. "For me, too. I don't know if I can trust these feelings. I don't know if I can trust you that way." "I understand. It's not that I don't feel something, I do, but it's confusing and scary, and I have Emily to think about." "I know, and I don't want to pressure you into anything. I just wanted you to know how I feel." Jennifer wiped her tears and took a deep breath. "I need time. Take all the time you need. And I need you to understand that if this doesn't work out, if you change your mind, I won't change my mind. But if you do, it won't just be my heart you break. It'll be a child's too." "I understand, and I promise I would never do that to Emily, or to me, or to you." Jennifer nodded slowly. "Then let's take it slow, very slow. Slow is fine. And complete honesty about everything. Complete honesty. And Emily always comes first in any decision we make. Always." In the following weeks, they began carefully exploring the possibility of a romantic relationship. It was awkward and tentative at first. Both were haunted by their complicated history. But gradually they found a rhythm. Occasional dinners, walks in the park with Emily, evenings working together at the foundation. It was different from any relationship either of them had experienced before, built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared purpose. Emily thrived with attention from both of them. Michael proved to be a natural caregiver, patient and affectionate with the baby. Jennifer gradually relaxed her guard and allowed him to become a constant presence in their lives. Jennifer's nursing course was going well. She was one of the top students in her class, her life experience giving her a compassion and determination that impressed teachers and classmates. The New Hope Foundation was helping its first group of women. There were success stories, single mothers earning college degrees, women starting small businesses, entire families lifting themselves out of poverty through education and opportunity. One December evening, almost a year after Emily's birth, Michael made a proposal that surprised Jennifer. "What if we got married?" They were sitting on the sofa in Jennifer's apartment, Emily sleeping in her lap. "Married?" Jennifer repeated, as if the word were foreign. "I know it's a big step, but I want Emily to have my last name. I want you both to have my complete legal protection. Michael, and I want to wake up every morning knowing I belong here with you." Jennifer looked at Emily, then at Michael. "Are you sure? Absolutely sure? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. What if people say it's too fast, that we're marrying for the wrong reasons? People will always have opinions. The only thing that matters is what we know to be true. And what do we know to be true? That we're a family, that we love each other, that we want to build a life together." Jennifer was silent for a long moment, looking at the man who had caused her so much pain, but had also become her source of love and hope. "Yes," she said finally. "Yes? Yes, I want to marry you." Michael smiled and kissed her gently, careful not to wake Emily. "When?" "When I finish my nursing course. I want to walk down the aisle as a registered nurse, not as someone who needs saving." "You never needed saving, Jennifer. You were always strong enough to save yourself. But it's nice to know I don't have to do everything alone." "You'll never have to do anything alone again." They married in a small but meaningful ceremony 6 months later, when Jennifer graduated from nursing school with the highest honors in her class. Emily, now a year and a half old, was the flower girl, charming everyone with her radiant personality. The vows they wrote were about second chances, about forgiveness, about transformation. They didn't hide the complicated history that had brought them there, but celebrated it as proof that people can change and grow. Jennifer got a job in the maternity unit at St. Michael's Hospital, finally fulfilling her dream of becoming a nurse. She loved caring for new mothers, especially those who were alone and scared like she had been. The New Hope Foundation grew and thrived. Within 2 years, it was operating in 3 cities and had helped over 200 women rebuild their lives. Jennifer, now the executive director, worked part-time at the foundation and part-time at the hospital. Michael had sold his company and dedicated himself full-time to social work. He discovered he found more satisfaction in helping a family escape poverty than in closing $1 million deal. Emily grew up knowing she was deeply loved by both parents. She never asked about her biological father. Michael was simply daddy and always had been. When she got older, they planned to tell her the truth about her origins, but in a way that emphasized love and choice, not rejection. On a summer evening, 3 years after the wedding, they were sitting in the garden of their new home, smaller than the mansion where Michael had lived, but infinitely more welcoming. Emily, now 4 years old, was catching fireflies. "Daddy, Mommy, look!" she shouted, running toward them with cupped hands. "I caught one!" "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Jennifer said. "But remember what we talked about fireflies? That they need to be free to shine," Emily recited. "Exactly. So what do we do?" Emily opened her hands and watched the firefly fly away, blinking in the darkness. "Beautiful," she murmured. Michael and Jennifer looked at each other, communicating volumes without words. They had learned the lesson that Emily was beginning to understand, that real love doesn't trap, but frees, that the most precious people in our lives are those who choose to stay, not those who are forced to remain. "What are you thinking about?" Jennifer asked Michael when Emily went back to playing. "About how life can completely change in a moment. Good changes or bad changes. The best changes. Sometimes we need our lives completely destroyed to figure out how to rebuild them the right way." "Do you regret anything?" Michael thought about the question. "I regret taking so long to really know you. I regret not investigating the jewelry situation. I regret wasting years in a marriage that didn't make me happy. But I don't regret the path that brought me here, to you both. Even with all the pain it caused, especially because of it, Because it taught me who I really am and who I want to be. Jennifer snuggled closer to him on the garden bench. Sometimes I think about what it would be like if you had never found me on the street that day. And I'm grateful that you did. Not for the money or the help, but because you became the person I didn't know I was looking for. The love of your life. The partner of my life. Someone who sees me as I really am and chooses to love me anyway. Especially for that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emily play and listening to the sounds of the night around them. It was a simple domestic scene, but for both of them, it represented something they had thought impossible. A true family, built on genuine love and mutual respect. "Jennifer," Michael said after a while. "Yes? Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me the chance to become the man you deserve. Thank you for becoming that man." Emily ran back to them, tired from playing. "Can I go to bed?" she asked. "Of course, my love," Jennifer said. "Let's brush our teeth." "Is Daddy coming too?" "Of course I am," Michael said, standing up and picking Emily up. As they went upstairs to put Emily to bed, Jennifer thought about how life had come full circle. A few years ago, she was a pregnant and desperate woman, walking alone through the streets of Los Angeles. Now she was a wife, mother, nurse, and director of a foundation that changed lives. But more important than any title or achievement, she was loved. Completely, unconditionally, genuinely loved. And she loved back with the same intensity. After putting Emily to sleep, they returned to the garden and gazed at the stars. "What story are we going to tell Emily about how we met?" Jennifer asked. "The truth," Michael replied without hesitation, "that sometimes people make terrible mistakes, but love and forgiveness can turn those mistakes into something beautiful." "Do you think she'll understand?" "I think she already does. Emily grows up seeing that love isn't perfect, but it's real, that families can be built in many different ways." "And what about her biological father?" "When she asks, we'll tell the truth about that too. That not all adults are ready to be parents, but that doesn't lessen her worth, that she was wanted and loved from the very first moment. By me. And by me too, from the moment I met her at the hospital." Jennifer smiled, remembering that day when Emily was born. Michael had been more nervous than her, and when the doctor placed the baby in his arms for the first time, his tears had been genuine and deep. "Do you really love her, as if she were your biological daughter?" "She is my daughter. Biology doesn't define fatherhood, Jennifer. Love defines fatherhood. What if we have other children? Do you want other children?" "I do, and you?" "I do. But not because Emily isn't enough, because our family has so much love to share." They talked about the future, about the possibility of siblings for Emily, about expanding the foundation to other regions, about growing old together and watching their children grow up and build their own families. They were simple but precious dreams. Dreams that neither of them had dared to have a few years earlier. When they finally went inside, they checked on Emily, who was sleeping soundly in her little bed, hugging her favorite teddy bear. "She's so perfect," Jennifer murmured. "Like her mother," Michael replied, hugging Jennifer from behind. "Michael?" "Yes?" "I love you. Not out of gratitude, not out of convenience, not out of fear of being alone. I love you because you are exactly who I want by my side for the rest of my life. And I love you because you taught me that it's never too late to become the person you should have been all along." They kissed, a kiss that sealed not only their love but their commitment to the life they had built together, a life based on honesty, compassion, and the belief that all people deserve a second chance to make things right. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this story of transformation and second chances? Do you believe Michael really changed, or would you have acted differently in Jennifer's place? Leave your opinion in the comments and tell us if stories of overcoming like this one touch you. If this narrative moved you, don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that speak straight to the heart. Your company is very special to us.